You probably know John D. Rockefeller as America's first billionaire, right? I mean, the name itself just screams massive wealth.
Absolutely. It's become shorthand for, well, unimaginable riches.
But do you really know how he actually built that empire? The Standard Oil monopoly. It wasn't just luck or finding oil.
Not at all. It's a really complex story,
Yeah.
full of ambition, some incredible innovation, honestly.
And strategies that were, well, let's just say they were as brilliant as they were ruthless. There's no other way to put it sometimes.
That's fair. Definitely brilliant. Definitely ruthless.
So today, we're doing a deep dive into the methods of Rockefeller. We're using Ron Chernow's big biography, Titan, as our main guide here. It's pretty definitive.
Yeah, Chernow really gets into the weeds. It's an amazing resource.
Our mission today, we want to unpack his obsession with efficiency. It was almost legendary.
And his approach to logistics. Truly masterful, almost ahead of its time.
And yeah, those really controversial tactics, rebates, drawbacks, the things that didn't just change competition, they basically flattened it.
They really reshaped the entire landscape, fundamentally.
We're going to explore how he basically pioneered the modern multinational corporation.
Right, and grapple with that legacy.
Yeah.
Because he was seen as this predatory monopolist.
But also a model of operational excellence. How do those two things fit together?
It's a paradox, isn't it? That's what makes him so fascinating.
Exactly. So get ready, because we're going to uncover some surprising nuggets, the stuff that really defines what we're calling the Rockefeller method.
Okay.
Let's dig in. Because to really get Rockefeller, you can't just start with the oil fields. You have to go back.
Way back to his youth.
Right. He wasn't born with a silver spoon. Chernow paints this picture in Titan of Richford, New York. Still an uncouth frontier, he calls it.
Yeah, like really frontier. Wild game everywhere, bears, deer.
Panthers. And apparently they carried torches at night to keep wolves away. Imagine that.
It shapes you, doesn't it? That kind of environment. It breeds a certain toughness, a need to survive, to control things.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
It feels like that's where that relentless drive came from, that need to operate, to make things work, to optimize. It wasn't just business, it was survival instinct, maybe.
That's a really crucial point, that frontier toughness. It absolutely bled into his business style. You know, his public image was often kind of reserved, quiet even. But inside, Chernow describes this intense focus, this relentless drive focused squarely on the operations, the nuts and bolts.
It reminds me a bit of Sam Walton, from Made in America.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, Walton was described as having the personality of a promoter, but the soul of an operator, driven to make things work well, then better, than the best they possibly can.
That's a great comparison. Rockefeller had exactly that same intensity, that almost obsessive focus on the core business. Not the fluff, but the grinding efficiency of the whole thing.
And it wasn't just about being strong, was it? It was about being strong compared to others.
Exactly. That's where Hamilton Helmer's ideas in Seven Powers come in handy. He says power isn't like strength, it's explicitly relative. It's about your strength compared to a specific competitor.
Rockefeller got that deeply.
He lived it. His whole strategy was built on creating that relative advantage.
And for Rockefeller, that relative strength, it really boiled down to one thing, didn't it? Lower costs.
Fundamentally, yes. Helmer's concept of scale economies, the benefit is simple. Lowered costs. That was the engine driving Standard Oil.
If they could produce and ship oil cheaper than anyone else, game over, basically.
Right. They wouldn't just compete, they'd dominate. But here's the really smart part, the often overlooked part. He knew just being efficient wasn't enough.
Because someone else could copy it.
Exactly. Efficiency can be temporary, so he didn't just aim for lower costs. He built like an economic fortress around those costs.
A barrier.
A massive barrier. Helmer talks about needing some obstacle that makes competitors unable or unwilling to copy your advantage, to arbitrage out this benefit.
And how did Standard Oil build that barrier? Just by being big.
Size was key. But it was how he used that size. Sheer scale and refining, yes. But think about logistics. While competitors were stuck with expensive, maybe unreliable railroads,
Rockefeller was doing what?
he was secretly building this enormous integrated pipeline network across state lines. That's not just being efficient. That's creating an obstacle that was almost impossible for anyone else to replicate quickly.
The cost must have been huge.
Exactly. The capital investment was immense. Smaller players couldn't even dream of matching it. It fundamentally changed the game. He made his cost advantage structural, almost permanent.
So you couldn't just catch up by being a bit more efficient in your own little refinery.
Nope. The scale required was just too vast. He engineered a situation where others were playing a different, much harder game.
Okay, so it wasn't just about being cheap now. It was about setting things up so you'd always be cheap and nobody else could realistically challenge that. That's, wow.
It's profound strategic thinking, isn't it?
Right.
It explains his obsession with controlling everything.
From the oil well, the transportation, the refining.
The barrel making, the distribution, right down to the final sale, every single step.
A truly holistic view.
Absolutely. He wasn't just a refiner. He was an architect of an entire industrial system. Every barrel, every pipeline connection, every negotiation with a railroad was a chance to shave off a fraction of a cent to make the system stronger, more untouchable.
It feels less like business and more like, well, like building a war machine almost.
In a way.
Yeah.
He understood that market leadership wasn't just about having a good product. It was about having an unbreakable operational advantage. This relentless focus on a structural, enduring cost advantage through scale. That was the bedrock.
And that bedrock allowed him to dictate terms.
To everyone. Railroads, suppliers, and ultimately his competitors.
Yeah.
He literally engineered competition out of existence by making the cost of entry, the cost of staying in the game, impossibly high for almost everyone else.
All right, let's shift gears a bit because we have to talk about the sharper edges of the Rockefeller method, the really ruthless strategies he used to build that monopoly.
Yeah, this is where it gets pretty controversial.
Starting with the South Improvement Company, the SIC. That name still has a bad ring to it, doesn't it?
It really does. Titan goes into detail about these allegations, these secret pacts, Standard Oil made with the major railroads.
And these weren't just like volume discounts, were they? It was more complicated.
Much more. These arrangements allegedly allowed Standard Oil not just to get much lower rates for themselves, but to effectively control the rates their competitors had to pay, sometimes even getting information on competitor shipments.
So they knew exactly what rivals were doing and could undercut them.
Precisely. It created this monumental, almost insurmountable competitive advantage. Imagine trying to compete when your rival basically sets your shipping costs and knows your business.
It sounds like playing poker, but the other guy can see your cards and controls the dealer.
That's a pretty good analogy.
Mm.
And Rockefeller didn't just rely on the mechanics of the deal itself. He understood psychology.
How so?
Chernow describes how he deliberately orchestrated a chorus of terrifying rumors about his secret pact. He didn't always have to make direct threats.
He let people's imaginations run wild.
Exactly. He knew his opponents' imaginations would embellish these stories and conjure up a conspiracy of unfathomable scope. It was psychological warfare, really.
And there's that story from J.W. Fawcett, a rival refiner.
Yeah, that's a chilling one from Titan. Fawcett said he was told flat out in 1872 that Standard Oil had the railroads wrapped up, they controlled the rates, and basically Fawcett's company would not ever ship any oil.
That's not just business, that's intimidation.
Pure intimidation, designed to crush morale, to make competitors feel completely powerless.
And it worked, didn't it? Fawcett saw it himself.
He did. He described how rivals became prematurely alarmed, and they fell over each other in their haste to sell out to Standard Oil.
So the fear, the rumors, were almost as powerful as the secret deals themselves.
Arguably more powerful in creating that panic. It accelerated the consolidation incredibly quickly. People just wanted out before they got completely crushed.
Which brings us to the rebates and drawbacks. These terms get thrown around a lot. Can we break them down?
Sure, rebates were the simpler part, though still highly controversial. Because Standard Oil shipped such enormous volumes, they secretly negotiated rebates on their freight costs from the railroads.
Okay, so they paid less per barrel to ship than the smaller guys. That makes sense as a volume discount, even if it was secret.
Right, it gave them a significant cost advantage. But the drawbacks were something else entirely. That was the truly aggressive part.
This is the bit where, correct me if I'm wrong, Standard Oil got paid when its competitors shipped oil.
You got it. Standard Oil didn't just get a rebate on its own shipments. It received a payment, a drawback from the railroad for every barrel of oil its rivals shipped on that same railroad.
Wait, so if I'm competitor X and I ship a barrel of oil, the railroad takes my money, gives Standard Oil a secret discount on their oil, A&D gives Standard Oil a cut of the money I just paid.
That's essentially how it worked. According to the allegations and testimonies like Fawcett's, your shipping costs were directly subsidizing your biggest competitor.
That is staggering. How could anyone compete with that?
They couldn't. It was designed to make it impossible. It financially tripled competitors. Every transaction they made to try and survive inadvertently made Standard Oil stronger and richer.
It's like a boa constrictor, just squeezing the life out of them.
A very effective boa constrictor. It created this vicious cycle that just accelerated Standard Oil's dominance and forced competitors to either sell out cheap or go bankrupt. It wasn't just about lowering their costs. It was about actively increasing everyone else's costs, or at least profiting from them.
And this leads directly to that crazy period of consolidation, right? Titan mentions 22 takeovers in 1872 alone. 22?
In 1 year. It was stunningly fast. More like a conquest than market competition.
It really sounds almost Machiavellian. Is that too strong a word?
I don't think it's too strong at all. It fits perfectly.
Yeah.
Think about Machiavelli's advice in The Prince.
Remind me.
He talked about how smart rulers, like the Romans, would maintain friendly relations with the minor powers without increasing their strength. They kept down the greater.
Okay.
And did not allow any strong foreign powers to gain authority. And crucially, foreseeing troubles, dealt with them at once, would not let them come to a head.
That sounds exactly like Rockefeller. Keep the small guy small, neutralize the big threats early.
With almost chilling precision, he absorbed or crippled rivals before they could become serious threats. He didn't let problems fester, he acted decisively. It was masterful strategic management of the competitive landscape.
But you mentioned psychology earlier. It wasn't just the deals and the takeovers.
No, there's definitely a layer of Sun Tzu in there too, from The Art of War. Sun Tzu wrote that an army can have its fighting spirit taken away from it, and that smart generals should avoid engaging when the enemy's fighting spirit is sharp and strike when it is weakening or in retreat.
So the rumors, the fear, the feeling of inevitability, that was weakening the spirit.
Exactly. Rockefeller's tactics, the secret deals, the rumors, the drawbacks, they were designed to demoralize his rivals, to make them feel overwhelmed, like resistance was futile.
So they'd sell out rather than fight a losing battle.
Precisely. They were psychologically defeated before the final economic blow even landed sometimes. It was a preemptive strike against their will to compete. Utterly brilliant, strategically speaking, even if ethically, well, questionable.
He weakened their spirit, then struck. Classic Sun Tzu.
Applied to the oil fields of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
He understood the terrain, the enemy's weaknesses, both financial and psychological, and exploited them ruthlessly.
Okay, so we've covered the ruthless edge, the monopoly building. But it's really important to stress this wasn't all he did, right? His success wasn't just about crushing people.
Not at all. That's maybe half the story. Underneath all that aggression was this incredible, almost fanatical dedication to efficiency within Standard Oil itself.
Making his own operations as lean, as effective as humanly possible.
Down to the tiniest detail. This is where he really stands out as an operational genius, maybe even more than as a monopolist. His commitment to internal excellence was unparalleled.
How did that look in practice? Was it just about cutting costs everywhere?
It was deeper than just cost-cutting. It connects really well to Peter Drucker's ideas decades later in The Essential Drucker, specifically management by objectives and self-control.
Okay.
Drucker argued that each job must be directed toward the objectives of the whole business, and all the individual efforts need to be welded into a common effort.
And Rockefeller did that.
Absolutely. His system ensured every single part of Standard Oil, every employee, every process, was laser-focused on maximizing efficiency, eliminating waste, optimizing output for the entire enterprise. It was a tightly integrated machine.
It's interesting how he seemed to anticipate management principles that became famous later.
He really did. Think about Alfred P. Sloan Jr. at General Motors, much later. Sloan talked about the advantage of quantity production and making sure there was no duplication across GM's different car lines and price point.
Right, streamlining everything.
Rockefeller was applying those exact same ideas, eliminating duplication, optimizing for quantity decades earlier in the oil industry, meticulously refining every process, from drilling to delivery. He was doing lean manufacturing before it had a name.
And a key part of that efficiency was his mastery of the whole supply chain, right? That vertical integration we touched on.
Totally central. He wasn't content just being a refiner. He controlled meticulously every step, acquiring the crude oil,
Building the pipelines to transport it cheaply.
refining it with cutting-edge technology for the time,
Making his own barrels.
owning the tank cars, even ships eventually.
And managing the distribution right to the final customer, whether it was kerosene for lamps or industrial lubricants.
Exactly. This total control meant incredible cost savings, reliability that competitors couldn't match, and this huge buffer against market fluctuations or attempts by others to squeeze him.
It sounds a bit like what Sears did later, controlling design and manufacturing.
It's a very similar impulse. The practice of management describes how Sears got involved in design of products and developing manufacturers, creating a basic policy for the relations between Sears and its suppliers.
Standard Oil just did it by owning everything or controlling it tightly.
Pretty much, they internalized critical parts of the supply chain, like pipelines and barrel making, or used their massive scale to dictate terms to suppliers they didn't own. It created this seamless, incredibly low-cost system.
And it all came back to that core idea: keep costs low.
Always. Just like Sam Walton's mantra, keep prices low by keeping our costs as low as possible. That wasn't just a nice idea for Rockefeller. It was the fundamental operating principle, the DNA of Standard Oil. Every inefficiency was treated like an enemy.
And this extreme efficiency, combined with the scale and the aggressive tactics, it made Standard Oil dominant.
So dominant that it essentially became what Michael Porter later called a focal point in his book, Competitive Strategy.
A focal point. What does that mean in this context?
Porter defines it as some prominent resting place on which the competitive process can converge its expectations to achieve a stable outcome. Basically, Standard Oil became the reference point for the entire industry.
Because they were so big and so efficient.
Yes. Their dominance, their ability to set prices due to their low costs, meant everyone else had to adapt to them. Smaller players had to conform to Standard Oil's pricing reality, or they just couldn't survive.
So you either played by their rules, which were set by their cost structure,
or you exited the market. It forced a kind of stability onto the industry, but it was stability dictated entirely by the monopolist.
which of course was hugely advantageous for Standard Oil.
Immensely. It allowed them to plan long-term, make those huge investments in things like pipelines, and drive costs down even further, solidifying their position. They didn't just win the game, they became the game board itself.
Now, Standard Oil didn't just stay within the U.S., did it? This efficiency machine went global.
It absolutely did. It transformed from that local refinery in Cleveland into this sprawling global enterprise operating across continents.
Which, when you think about it, was basically the invention of the modern multinational corporation.
In many ways, yes. They were writing the playbook for how a massive company could operate globally with a centralized vision and control.
The challenges must have been immense back then, coordinating operations across oceans.
Before reliable phones, before the internet, obviously. Navigating different laws, different cultures, different markets.
How did they manage that scale? It seems like it could easily spiral into chaos.
It required incredible organization. It brings back that Sun Tzu quote from Master Sun's Art of War. The key to managing a large number of troops is the same as managing a small number. Organization and assignments, signals and orders.
So clear structures, clear communication, even across vast distances.
Absolutely crucial. Standard Oil developed sophisticated internal systems. They had clear reporting lines, meticulous accounting, and ways to ensure that directives from the central office in New York were carried out consistently, whether in Pennsylvania or eventually in places like China or Germany.
They were selling kerosene in China.
Oh, yeah. They famously developed cheap lamps, the Maifu lamps, specifically for the Chinese market, and built a massive distribution network there. They brought affordable light to millions, which was revolutionary.
How did they handle distribution in places like that?
They built the infrastructure. Tank wagons, storage depots, networks of local agents who understood the regions. They figured out how to get kerosene into remote villages, sometimes using traditional transport like camels or riverboats. It wasn't just exporting, it was deep market penetration.
So a kind of decentralized execution, but with centralized strategy and control.
That's a good way to put it. They set up affiliated companies, sometimes with local partners, but the overall strategy, the focus on efficiency, the financial control that remained tightly held at the center.
It's fascinating that they were pioneering this structure long before modern management theory really codified it.
They were inventing it as they went along. Even later companies like IBM, dealing with new markets as discussed in The Innovator's Dilemma, developed similar concepts like autonomous divisions. Standard Oil had to figure out analogous structures decades earlier, using ledger books and telegraphs.
Their internal systems for tracking global demand, adjusting production, managing shipping must have been groundbreaking.
Revolutionary for the time. It allowed them to manage this enormous complexity and maintain that efficiency edge on a global scale.
And there's this interesting tension, isn't there, between the sheer scale, the ambition to conquer global markets, and this meticulous, disciplined control over every detail.
Yes, it wasn't just wild, reckless expansion. That's where Rockefeller himself really embodied what Peter Drucker called the effective executive.
What are those characteristics?
Drucker said effective executives focus on what needs to be done, ask what's right for the enterprise, and have a disciplined approach. They focus on opportunities, not just problems.
And Rockefeller was like that, disciplined despite the huge scale.
Very much so, according to Chernow and others. His approach was systematic, almost dispassionate in its execution. He didn't seem to get caught up in the chaos of rapid growth.
Which is interesting because sometimes having tons of money can lead companies to make bad decisions, right?
Absolutely. The book, How Will You Measure Your Life, warns about how abundant capital can let entrepreneurs recklessly pursue the wrong strategy aggressively.
But Rockefeller avoided that trap.
It seems so. Despite his immense ambition and the vast resources at his command, he maintained this rigorous, disciplined methodology. Growth was strategic, planned, meticulously executed. Not just fast for the sake of being fast.
He built the empire with precision, not just brute force.
Exactly. That careful balance between aggressive ambition and disciplined, efficient execution is really key to understanding Standard Oil's extraordinary success and longevity, at least until it was broken up. It's what allowed them to manage that global scale effectively.
Okay, which brings us inevitably to the legacy. How is Rockefeller remembered? Often it's with that term, robber baron.
That term definitely stuck.
Yeah.
And there was huge public backlash against him and the trusts in his time. People felt exploited.
Even prominent figures like Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Titan mentions Roosevelt, this cultivated, well-to-do man, reviled guys like Jay Gould and, by extension, Rockefeller, calling them the wealthy criminal class.
Yeah, the political heat was intense, and Rockefeller's response to politics was often very pragmatic, maybe even cynical.
Like that donation to Roosevelt's mayoral campaign.
Exactly. Chernow notes he gave money in 1886, not because he liked Roosevelt, he really didn't, but because he was even more scared of another candidate, Henry George, and his single tax policy.
So it wasn't about ideology, it was pure self-interest, protecting the business.
Purely defensive, protect the enterprise, which makes his reaction to his biggest critic, Ida Tarbell, even more interesting.
The journalist who wrote the scathing history of Standard Oil, he saw her as uniquely dangerous, didn't he?
He really did. More dangerous than other critics because, as he saw it, she makes a pretense of fairness. And beneath that pretense, she slips into her history, all sorts of evil and prejudicial stuff.
He felt her apparent objectivity made her more damaging.
Precisely. And his response wasn't really to engage with her facts, was it?
No, Titan shows him resorting to dismissive, pretty personal attacks, saying she distorts facts, disregards reason. There was a real edge, almost misogynistic at times.
There was. Yet fascinatingly, he also kind of grudgingly admitted that her book contained so much favorable to the Standard Oil Company.
Which suggests he knew her critique wasn't entirely baseless, perhaps, or at least that it was complex.
It certainly shows he was paying close attention to the nuances of public perception, even while trying to discredit the messenger. He even spun this weird fantasy that she must be tormented by guilt.
It's hard to know if he genuinely believed he was purely righteous or if it was just incredibly effective image management, even self-deception.
It's impossible to say for sure, but he definitely constructed this narrative of himself as acting for the greater good. He had this vision of, let's call it, benevolent capitalism.
How does he justify the monopoly?
Chernow mentions this remarkable belief Rockefeller held later in life, that Germany's defeat in World War I was literally God's final blessing on Standard Oil.
Seriously?
Yeah. He claimed that Providence guided these aggregations of great funds, meaning Standard Oil's wealth, which had been used, in his view, with such conspicuous benefit in helping to liberate the world.
So the cheap kerosene, the reliable fuel, that was a divine mission, basically.
From his perspective, yes. The efficiency, the low prices, the global access that was a profound benefit to humanity, justifying the methods used to achieve it, he saw himself as an agent of progress.
Which creates that core tension, doesn't it? Predatory tactics on one side.
Ruthless crushing of competitors, secret deals, manipulation.
But on the other side, this undeniable operational excellence. The efficiency did lead to lower prices, wider availability of oil products. Kerosene lit up the world. Lubricants powered industry.
It fueled economic development, improved quality of life for millions. So the age-old question, Do the ends justify the means?
Was the suffering of his rivals a necessary price for that progress?
That's the crux of the debate about his legacy. And it echoes back to Adam Smith, doesn't it, in The Wealth of Nations?
Smith's idea of the invisible hand.
Right. That private interest naturally points to that employment most advantageous to the society. The pursuit of self-interest can benefit everyone.
But Smith also warned about
Exactly. He warned against legal regulations of private industry, but also dangerous assumptions of power. Rockefeller embodies that tension perfectly. When does pursuing private interest become a dangerous assumption of power that harms society, even if it creates some benefits?
It's a world away from modern business thinking, or at least the ideal, like Stephen Covey's win-win or no deal from the 7 Habits.
That's a great contrast. Covey says if you can't find a solution that benefits both parties, walk away.
Rockefeller's approach was often fundamentally win-lose, wasn't it? Conquer at all costs.
It was. His goal was dominance, consolidation, his order achieved through overwhelming the opposition. It reflects the era, maybe.
The robber baron era, a wild west of capitalism.
Very much so. Like that uncouth frontier he grew up in, the rules were still being written, and he was arguably the most powerful author of those rules, for better or worse.
He built a system that delivered efficiency and access on an unprecedented scale.
But at the cost of competition, and arguably fairness. That debate, efficiency versus fairness, innovation versus monopoly, it's still the central tension in capitalism, isn't it?
And Rockefeller remains right at the heart of it, a truly complex, maybe perplexing figure. So we've journeyed through the world of John D. Rockefeller. We've seen how his empire wasn't just built on oil, but on this really potent mix of strategy.
A combination of shrewd and often ruthless competitive tactics. Those railroad deals, the drawbacks.
And alongside that, this almost unbelievable drive for operational efficiency, for mastering logistics, a true obsession.
He really did lay down the blueprint for the modern multinational corporation in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
Scale, control, global reach. People still study how he did it.
For sure. So as we wrap up, here's something to really chew on, a final thought for you. When does that relentless drive for efficiency, for market dominance, which, let's face it, can bring good things like cheap, accessible products?
When does it cross the line?
When does it become harmful monopoly, damaging to the broader economy or society? Was Rockefeller a necessary evil, maybe? A brutal force needed to kickstart a vital industry and bring its benefits to the world faster than anyone else could have?
Or is his story primarily a warning? A cautionary tale about what happens when private ambition goes unchecked, when market power becomes too concentrated?
It's a tension we still grapple with constantly today, isn't it? In tech, in finance, in pharmaceuticals.
Everywhere. That balance between encouraging innovation and efficiency while also ensuring fair competition and preventing harmful monopolies, it's the ongoing debate.
And Rockefeller's shadow looms large over that whole conversation. His legacy forces us to keep asking those tough questions about capitalism itself.